Hello, welcome to Module 2. And in this module, we're just going to go over the different types of cooperatives. So there's two ways to classify cooperatives. You look at the ownership structure versus the industry in which they operate. So in terms of cooperative types, there's worker co-ops, consumer co-ops, producer, multi-stakeholders, and not-for-profit service co-ops. And the next few slides, I'll review each of these categories. So for worker co-ops, they are owned by the employees, but not all employees have to be a member. So you do have a choice there. So with worker co-ops, the workers are required to purchase a share in the co-op. Sometimes that might be prohibitive, but that's the way the co-ops work. And the profits are shared with the workers in relation to the hours worked. And it's really good for the employees because they develop governance skills in terms of how to run a business, and they have control over their workplaces. So examples, I'm not going to read them all off, but these are a few examples of worker co-ops in Canada. So you have the Sustainability Solutions Group, consulting group. You have Hub City Cycles, so there's a couple of those in Canada. And there's in PEI, there's the Co-op Taxi. In Nova Scotia, we have Just Us Coffee Roasters, which some of you may have heard about. So those are just some examples. And there's another one that I didn't have on here is Weaver Co-op. And Weaver is the IT co-op that we actually hired to develop our ACT dashboard. So for consumer co-ops, it's owned by its customers, so they sell products or services to its members, and patronage dividends, if given, are issued in proportion to the volume of purchases made. So all credit unions would be consumer co-ops. We have the Arctic Co-op, the Cooperators Insurance Company. So for Arctic Co-op, what they do is they provide services to different co-ops in the Arctic. So they take care of sending in their goods that they need for the year, and they also take any products, art, carvings, things like that that are made in the Arctic, and they get those to market on behalf of the members. So a producer co-op, it's owned by producers such as farmers, fishers, and say woodlot owners. The members produce the goods and sell them to the co-op. So the co-op packages and processes, markets, and resells the goods and provides supplies and services to their members. This is particularly prevalent in the prairies. Farmers are not into like packaging and processing and finding markets and shipping it off to members. So this is all done by the co-op that they are a member of. So they'll do this on behalf of their members. And then the members, of course, will receive patronage dividends proportionate to the business that they've done with the co-op. So another type of producer co-op, which is cooperatives for the modern age, we say, is called platform co-ops. So platform co-ops, they use digital platforms to allow individuals to sell a product or service by attaining scale as a collectively owned platform. So it's kind of like Uber if it was owned by the drivers, which it's not, but it's that type of thing. So this type of co-op is seen in tourism, transportation, on-demand labor, and photography. So this is a Statsky image, and you see those many times through in different books and magazines. So Statsky itself is owned by the photographers who take these photos, and then if you want to use them, then you pay for a fee to use them. So examples of producer co-ops in Canada, we have Nova Scotia Christmas Tree Co-op. Agripur is in Quebec, which is a huge dairy co-op. There's a Fishers Co-op in Manitoba. We have in Cape Breton, there's a fisheries and oyster co-op. And Gailey's Foods in Ontario is a huge grocery co-op. So Multi-stakeholder co-op involves everybody, involves workers, consumers, producers, community members. So they're all members of a co-op. So with the multi-stakeholder co-ops, it has more than one type of member. It doesn't have to have all the types, but it has to have more than one type. So you have an example here of where it's consumers, workers, community representatives. So you can have a multi-stakeholder health co-op that would provide good jobs, but also tailor the services to the elderly. So patients, doctors could be members. You might have a multi-stakeholder food store which would provide good jobs and sell local food to support local farmers. So there you have your consumer, your worker, and your producer. They're not in every province, but there are a lot of them in Quebec. So another category for cooperatives is in the not-for-profit. So this means in the not-for-profit, any surplus generated is reinvested into the organization and not distributed to the members. So the co-ops, they don't pay income tax and the members don't own the assets. So these are generally formed to address broad community needs such as housing, daycare, tourism, etc. So there's examples given here of housing co-ops in Ontario and in Alberta, and a daycare co-op in Ontario. And there's also a fairly new co-op daycare has opened in Western Newfoundland in Port aux Basques. So in terms of the industry, co-ops are in pretty much every industry you can think of: financial, banking, insurance, housing, technology, food, healthcare, forestry, dairy, funeral services, media, and entertainment. So if you do want to start a co-op or recommend it to someone, there is some basic information in this module, and it's important to recognize that a co-op may not be the solution for all situations, but it's certainly the best option in certain circumstances. So when you're starting a co-op, the same as you would any other type of business, you need a business plan. You need to identify your financing needs. How much money are you going to need to get this started, and where are you finding the money? So what are the sources? Are you going to get a loan from a credit union, government funding? That's something you have to figure out. Just as you would with any other business, you have to have a plan in order to start a co-op. So why start a co-op? Well, to address a need in the community that's not being met by other businesses. It helps to create dignified work, affordable services, daycare, housing, healthy food, etc. You often see these farmers markets. A lot of those are actually co-ops. Another instance could be a group might want to take over a business that's closing down. So it often happens that, a business, the owner is ready to retire, their family is not interested, their children don't want to take over the business. So this is an option where rather than see the business close down, the employees can get together and form a co-op and take over the business. And a lot of people don't think about that, but it is actually a real option for people to use. So some advantages in starting a co-op: it certainly supports the local economic, business, and community development. It's versatile. It can be applied to any organizational size and business sector. Each shareholder gets one vote, and the profits from the co-op are distributed in a variety of ways. For example, you could be providing a living wage, and a lot of co-ops do tend to pay their employees a little bit better than their counterparts in the investor-owned business, because the idea here is there's no goal of pure profit maximization. You want to make enough money to make sure the business is viable and can continue on. But you can afford to do things like make a contribution to the community, pay decent wages, etc. So the structure of the business model does create continuity because members and shareholders can leave and join at any time. shareholder liability is limited, so you're not responsible for the cooperative's debt. The only thing you're going to lose is the money that you've invested to buy your membership. And as legally incorporated entities, cooperatives can own things, they can take up mortgages and enter into contracts. Of course, like any good idea, there's always some limitations. So, as with any business venture, a cooperative model doesn't ensure that you will be successful. You need to make sure you've got a feasibility study, a good sound business plan, and make sure that you have proven that to the extent you can that this is going to be a viable option. And the other issue here is where it's a requirement that the board members be one of the members of the co-op. Sometimes that does limit you because you may not have any members who are accountants or lawyers. So not having that expertise, can be difficult. Now, you can bring in professional support and hire people, but the board members themselves have to come from the co-op membership. And, the risk is if they don't come with that knowledge, a certain specialized knowledge, then that could be a bit of a limitation. I guess the other issue is the overall lack of public awareness and understanding of the cooperative business model. That can hinder the group's ability to attract investments or perhaps secure loans and that kind of thing. So we're at the end of Module 2. So in this module, there's 2 questions that you have to answer. So the first one is, of the types of co-ops and examples provided in this module, which one would be most useful in your life to meet any of your current needs? So for example, if your neighborhood is lacking good food options, a grocery store or a farmer's market could be useful to meet that need. If you have trouble finding meaningful work that aligns with your personal goals, perhaps a worker co-op would be of benefit. If you need daycare and affordable housing, these are other examples of unmet community needs. So you may use one of these examples or any other unmet need that you can think of and in answering this question. Again, you need to refer to at least 2 of the module videos to illustrate your points. Then the second question is, after you've identified the unmet community need that could be addressed by establishing a co-op, provide 2 key challenges you think you might expect to encounter and provide recommendations for how you would address these challenges. Examples of challenges may include, but are not limited to, financing suitable space, hiring qualified employees, retaining good employees, etc. So those are the questions that are in your Module 2 discussion board. That concludes this video.